The Black Sky Chronicles, to me, is a story set in a context not explored often.
The Black Sky Chronicles. I started knowing about this project 3 summers ago when my dear friend Antonio Tambornino was showing me the first drafts of his work. I had known Antonio since he was 13, and he has always been fascinated by the manga artwork. And every time I have visited his home, I'm a very good friend of his father, Joseph Tambornino. He would always show me, the drawings of these cyborg dragons. And I can see that all the fascination that he has, since the beginning of his, childhood. As soon as I started reading it, I just felt the excitement of what the story, is going to be through all those chapters. And I find Antonio's work very inventive and innovative, and I think the book is worth reading because it's very vivid and it's very exciting.
I saw a chance when I was younger to tell a story that I haven't seen told elsewhere.
In brief, it is dragons in space. Originally, when Antonio came up with it, the Sky Raiders were going to be the only actual dragons in the story, and they were cybernetic dragons. But now that has changed.
The Black Sky Chronicles was something that I found out about soon after the author and I met at the Fanime convention. And when we first met, we were kind of talking about it, and he wanted to show me it and get my opinion and whatnot. So I'm a writer myself, and I started trying to give him some tips and whatnot. And it took us a while to kind of go ahead and get our trust together, our rapport, not only as friends but as writers. But once we eventually established that rapport and we established the level of trust, I'd say that's when we really started kicking it off and started having regular conversations.
Antonio has been working on this book for a few years now, and it is essentially at completion.
Antonio has really been working on this series for a very long time. I would say since he was a little boy. He began playing what he called games in his heads, where he would walk back and forth and conjure up scenarios and characters and try to always give them a lot of life. And what I see above that now is just him manifesting what's been in his head for over 20 years coming onto the paper now.
A lot of the ideas that are in there are things that interest me and the author collectively, and the writing style is similar to something you would read in a more young adult oriented book. So I see it hopefully being geared more towards young adult audiences in general, and I see it becoming something that could stay hopefully with the young generation later on into the latter years and what.
The Black Sky Chronicles started as a passion for comic books and for pop culture. A friend and I could draw and had similar tastes in entertainment, if not necessarily storytelling techniques. I thought we could pull off something interesting, cool, and fun, but also a bit different. So this is a sample of the ideas that I like to put in a journal, and usually I'm actually writing in a digital journal because I have my iPhone with me often, and I can pull out Evernote on my iPhone and write something down. And I've been working for a while in this area, and I'm writing almost every day, not just science fiction and fantasy, but I've been at it for a while now, and things are really coming together, and this book is really starting to really take shape and really become something grand. So my advice to all you writers out there is find a group of people with whom you can, get together and, share your stories, share your ideas, share what you're writing, even if you're not very good at it. And, have ideas bouncing back around and everyone working on each other's craft, you can really get something special to happen. My friend and I played a copy of Dynasty Warriors Gundam on his PlayStation 3 when he spent the night. And I saw a chance to tell an intergalactic space opera and to give it something that I hadn't seen been given to that kind of story before, illustrated in a sci-fi setting.
Robots, the humans are using dragons' hearts to power their robots, so there's a bit of a issue between humans and dragons.
Antonio started talking to me about the characters. Oh gosh. Maybe 9 years ago. First couple of characters that he was thinking about got into his head, and he was working with a couple of friends from school, one in particular, who gave him a name that Antonio really liked for that particular character, and that stuck. So I remember that that would have been 2008, and it's now 2017.
Dragons have appeared in fiction in some form or another over the centuries, but not as they appear in the Black Sky Chronicles.
I see it as the beginning of a years-long franchise of storytelling with some very interesting characters and very imaginative plot lines and so forth. And I look forward to the maturation of that franchise as Antonio gets further and further into it. Starting out well, I think it can only go up from here.
I'm really excited about this project for him because he's been living in this fantasy for really, I think, since he was born. And the logo, the art, the characters, the names, all of it are very vivid and very real to him, and it's just really exciting to see it getting onto paper and into the hands of other people who love sort of that fantasy science fiction life.
Antonio had done this picture of the dragon shield that was going to be the symbol of the Fyrants, and one day he emailed me and said, like, hey, do you mind coloring this over Photoshop? I heard you're good in Photoshop. So I colored it in via Photoshop, and he loved it, and we did several variations thereof, and that's become one of the famous images that of the Fyrant symbol for now.
To see people struggle against gargantuan dragons that are automated and built to destroy in a Bildungsroman seemed a very interesting and fun project to work on. If only I could draw it.
I still don't know how he does it. I can't believe he's already got ideas for the fourth book and he's already working on the second. Perhaps he can go into animation, not sure about movie format, but it could also go into comic format, depending on who the artist is.
The author has already put the book on Amazon and has already been through a lot of the process of putting it through a publishing company. But you really can't start saying how successful a book is going to be until you actually see numbers. And of course, my opinion, working on the Black Sky Chronicles, I hope that it'll be successful, but I can't really say how successful it's going to be until it's actually on a bookshelf being marketed by a marketing team.
It's hard to tell because I really don't know the science fiction market, but I would love to see it get into the hands of younger readers who really like having action figures as part of their life, games, stories, videos, just more movies, more stories. I hope that he continues to contribute and write to the Black Sky Chronicles until the end of his life.
Antonio's told me that he has several ideas and places he wants to take his books, and he has a couple of books in mind. And I really feel that it does have potential to be something big.
I would most certainly love to see the Black Sky Chronicles progress and turn into something that's more than one book. I love working with Antonio on new ideas, and we've even spoken our talks about new ideas for new books.
I've seen some good stories that have never really gotten the light of day because they've never reached the right market. So I believe it has potential to be something, but that all depends on public interest.
I think it'll probably be noticed at first, but it's going to take, as these things always do, it's going to take 3 to 5 years as people become increasingly aware of the story and what the characters mean and so forth. And as Antonio keeps working on it, it should be it should be a success.
And how soon do you plan on reading the Black Sky Chronicles?
Technically, I have read the first 5 chapters of the first book.
I've already started reading some of it. I have about the first 2 chapters done. The issue with my reading style is that I don't read books, I listen to books. And as of right now, there is no audio recording of the Black Sky Chronicles, so I mean, it's difficult for me to find time to sit down and to actually, go over what is in the book. The best way for me to do that right now is usually to talk with the author individually and to see what he has to say in regards to the different things that have been touched upon.
I've already read the whole thing.
As soon as I get my own copy, I mean, best advertisement is to actually be shown reading the product you're advertising now, isn't it?
I've begun. I have a lot of reading that I do at night, and I have a bad habit of looking at my Facebook and Instagram feed, so I don't read as much as I should. But now that it's getting published, it's in my top 5 things to do right now. I love the tank top. I've been wearing that to my yoga classes.
I'm really looking forward to reading the book when it's, on paper. And I'll share that with everybody else.